So, I got another My Thoughts video for you guys, and it's on the game that's coming out in just a few weeks called Anthem. Anthem is a third-person online game developed by Bioware and is supposed to be the studio's new IP going forward after the critical failure that was Mass Effect Andromeda that caused the main Bioware studio Montreal to be shut down. And who exactly is the publisher of the game? EA. Yeah, I have a lot of things to say about this whole situation between EA themselves and Anthem, but I want to start with EA first because they are the main point of this subject. I've already expressed my negative feelings on the company and their absolutely retarded business practices in recent years, but they have really become a problem at around late 2017 to 2018. In 2017, they released Star Wars Battlefront 2, a sequel to a rather lackluster entry in 2015. People complained that there was no story mode for the game and it lacked a whole lot of content, and yet EA was asking you to buy the deluxe edition that costs around $120. For many, the sequel was an improvement with there being more content, the story was fine but too short, and the multiplayer had more to offer. Overall, Battlefront 2 was a better game than Star Wars Battlefront 1. But all of those positives were marred by what is undoubtedly EA's biggest fuck up in their entire career: the loot boxes. I'm not going to go in depth on how the whole thing worked, but the TLDR is, it was highly anti-consumer given the amount of time it takes you to unlock one Star Wars character, and the crazy prices it's asking you to pay for if you don't have the time to play every single match. Needless to say, this pissed off the entire community. It got bombed on the Metacritic score, sales were nowhere near as high as its predecessor, their crappy pride and accomplishment comment became the most downvoted Reddit comment of all time, Black Friday pictures showed that Battlefront 2 was fully stocked in empty idols, which pretty much translates to nobody was purchasing it, and what small goodwill people might have had for EA, even after the bullshit they've been doing pre-2017, has been completely buried in the dirt. The loot box controversy got so bad that not only did Disney tell them to get rid of the system from their game, but governments around the world have been on a campaign to regulate loot boxes completely from new games and even old games, with Belgium being the most active of them all. Lots of companies like Square Enix, Blizzard, and Valve have cracked from the pressure and removed the loot boxes in some of their games, but EA wasn't gonna give that shit up. They even went so far as to say they will take Belgium to fucking court just so they can continue skimming people out of their money in their garbage sports games that are infamous for their egregious microtransactions. And then they proceeded to crack from the pressure and remove the FIFA points from their recent FIFA game, basically making their court threat boneless. Here's some advice, EA. Don't try to retaliate against Belgium if you don't have the resources to take them to court in the first place. You know, I would like to wonder why Disney thought giving full Star Wars rights to EA was a good idea. Could they not find any other publisher that was willing to respect the franchise better than them? So far, they've only had 2 games in their entire 10-year contract, and both of them were not received well, compared to the 2000s where there were boatloads of critically acclaimed Star Wars games. And the Star Wars games they were making that looked like they were going to be hits like Star Wars 1313, Knights of the Old Republic 3, etc., they outright cancelled. So what the fuck have Disney accomplished with this deal? Well, if Bob Iger's comments are true, apparently all of this is just a slap in the wrist for them and they are happy about the deal with EA. Iger, what the fuck were you smoking that day? So after the disaster that was Battlefront 2, EA has made a statement that they were going to learn from their mistakes and not pull something like this ever again. Keep in mind, this was at the same time they had said they were not going to remove loot boxes in their sports games. Now, while they have stayed true to their word in some way by having Battlefield 5 and Anthem not featuring loot boxes and supposedly have free DLC, all of that doesn't matter at the end given what I'm about to say next. Battlefield 5 is announced and already there is a problem. Aside from that shitty Trevor Noah segment in the livestream, they say it will be the most grounded, realistic Battlefield experience anyone has ever seen, before showing a trailer that shows the exact opposite. A woman with a hook hand holding a sniper rifle with blue face paint, some guy wielding a katana on his back, sliding all over the place with an MG42 because, sure, none of this screamed historical accuracy. But that wouldn't really be a huge problem at the end had it stopped there. If they just took cue to what, say, Activision and Sledgehammer did with Call of Duty World War II and not respond to the whole issue about the lack of swastikas and German female soldiers being in the multiplayer, the whole controversy could have blown over just like that. I'm not saying you can't respond to the issue, of course you can, but at least make sure you know what the exact issue is before you talk about it. That's not what they fucking did. Instead, they focused more on the women didn't exist in World War II argument and blew it the hell out of proportion. Never mind the people saying they were advertising their non-accurate game being accurate. From the stupid Patrick Sutherland comment saying accept it or don't buy it, to that incredibly retarded launch party they had after the game's launch where they cherry-picked the worst comments said about Battlefield 5, which probably don't even exist. They basically did everything you should never do when making a product for your target audience. You know, a wise old man once said, and by wise old man I mean me, says, those who represent a company should not show hostility towards their customers over an issue they know very little about. Hyphen some douchebag on YouTube 2019. This kind of advice to companies go without saying. Never try to fight your target audience, especially when it's about an issue you barely understand or are deliberately ignoring. If EA and DICE just went and said that Battlefield 5 will be putting a twist on the World War II era with unique stories based on real events and top-notch multiplayer action using creative license, while there will be some people who will still be upset that they're not being accurate with the material, it would at least clarify everything and people would, in Patrick's words, accept it. But you cannot just go and say it will be historically accurate while showing none of that in your gameplays and then shit on the customers when they call you out for it. That's not how PR works. They also really dropped the ball with the marketing of this game. Seriously, during the time it was weeks away from launch, I have seen no advertisements of this game via YouTube trailers or on other websites. Compare that to, say, Black Ops 4 and Red Dead Redemption 2, where the marketing was everywhere, even a month after both the games launched. Oh, and speaking of launches, they had to delay Battlefield 5 to a November release because they think it was a good idea to sandwich the game between Black Ops 4 and Red Dead Redemption 2. And if this sounds familiar, that's because they did the same thing with Titanfall 2, where they had the launch date be in the middle of the release of Battlefield 1 and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, which ultimately ended up causing the game to flop despite the critical acclaim it had. So, at least they were smart to move the game away from a tight month, but that meant their stocks would take a nosedive because of it. In the end, Battlefield 5 ended up releasing broken, lacking content, not having the Battle Royale mode that they have announced way back in E3 2018, and was just overall a mediocre game. Selling pre-orders 85% less than Black Ops 4, selling copies less than Battlefield 1, and being the first game in the series to not be on the top charts of best-selling games. And given EA's history of dealing with their studios after one flop in a series like Dead Space 3, Mass Effect Andromeda, and others, I guess we can kiss the Battlefield series goodbye for now, as we won't see another game from them again, and DICE will probably end up meeting the same fate as Bioware Montreal. All of this leads up to one important game for them, Anthem. Anthem is a saving grace they desperately need at this point. They have had a really bad streak during the last year, with Titanfall 2 underperforming in sales, Battlefront 2 selling less than the first game, Mass Effect Andromeda putting the series on ice, their latest FIFA game not gaining nearly as much money as the last entry did, and Battlefield 5 outright flopped. They cannot risk another failure like this again, especially with how their stocks have been doing this past month. Because if Anthem ends up being another disappointment, it's gonna put EA in a lot of trouble and Bioware might be shut down completely. Now, do I think Anthem is going to do well? Is there a good chance that it might bring the studio back on its feet and save EA's stocks? Honestly, no. I don't think Anthem is going to do well. Let's just think about everything that has happened since its inception. You have an IP that's being made by a studio that was known for its single-player driven games and focuses heavily on the story and the choices you make throughout the games. Anthem is none of those. It's an online service game that lacks the focus on a narrative and the choices you make in the world and more on the multiplayer aspect. And this is the type of game that Bioware is not prepared to do. They are basically giving a studio a project that defeats the purpose of why they are such a beloved studio in the first place, and that doesn't give longtime Mass Effect players any confidence about Anthem. Then there is the awful demo that came out where nobody could get in the servers. It was filled with graphical errors, bugs, and glitches, etc. This basically says that Anthem is not ready for release, but EA is going to release it anyway in that state because, well, they're known for doing that as well. Then there is the leaks about the microtransactions, which only fueled a fire given most of the items on display are not that valuable and yet are very costly. And last is just the general sense of people not wanting to buy EA games anymore, which I feel like is the biggest factor compared to everything else. EA has been terrible in 2018 with how they handle their games and their reputation. They have given gamers no reason to go back to any of their stuff given how shitty they have been treated by the company. They've said they were going to be better and they ended up doing the exact opposite. Whoever was excited for Anthem then are probably going to steer clear from this game as a way to not support EA from now on, even if the game is developed by one of their favorite studios. And I think that is the biggest tragedy of all. If EA just backed off and actually learned their lesson this year, Anthem could have a chance even with its underwhelming demo. But now with all this bad PR, the failure of Battlefield 5 and their terrible response to the criticism of that game, along with Bioware being put in controversy on their own with the bad demo and leaked microtransactions, I feel like EA has already doomed Anthem at this point. And you know who's gonna take the fall at the end? Bioware. Because given how EA shuts down other studios that make games that were lackluster in sales due to EA's involvement over the projects like Bioware Montreal, they're going to pull the plug on this one and they're not going to bat an eye. They'll just wait until DICE meets that same fate as well, which I feel like is going to happen at some point. As much as I like to think Anthem could very well be a success, all of this drama behind it and EA is not giving me a reason to say so. I'm sorry, Bioware. I hate to say it, but I'm afraid it's over. Now, what do you guys think of this video? Do you think Anthem will succeed and you're going to pick up the game when it comes out? Or do you think it's going to flop and you're going to stay away from it? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching. And EA, like I said to Warner Brothers, fuck you.